I'm Evelyn Risley with TechCrunch TV here at IO Ventures in San Francisco. Now this space is part incubator, part cafe, and recently opened up earlier this year. Two of the co-founders agreed to give us a tour.
So IO Ventures is an early stage mentorship program we've built here in the city. So we've combined kind of some of our deep personal relationships, leverage those to kind of help these really young companies get from the level they're at to the next level, be it raising a round of funding, go out there getting a strong business partner, or maybe potentially even get acquired. So we're trying to leverage all that around a physical space as well too. We think it's really important to put people in a kind of tight, comfortable place where they can go out there and have a lot of these ad hoc relationships as well too. So that combination of those two things is really what IO Ventures is in our.
IO Ventures was founded by four entrepreneurs, including Ashwin, Navin, and Bragiel. It started as an idea to build a cafe.
Well, the genesis of this was that a friend of mine, Jim Young, who started Hot or Not, one day, probably 4 years ago, said, "I'd really like to start a cafe." And we noodled on it together, and we thought it would be really cool if there was kind of a geeky aspect to it. Being startup entrepreneurs ourselves, we thought it would be fun to make sure that it had really great Wi-Fi, lots of power, and in a place where people like to hang out. And so at the time I was living in Potrero Hill and he was living in the neighborhood as well, and so we've been looking for some place in the Mission District. And I'd say maybe 3 years ago, the college across the street here, New College, needed to raise some money. And part of the process was that they needed to liquidate some property, and so we bought this building at the appraised value, which was a little bit above the market, but we love the location. We're on Valencia 19th. It's not far from home, and there's just so much foot traffic. And lots of other startups here too, so it was a logical place for us to do that. So the idea was to have a certain amount of space that was just open to the public, and we're sitting right now in what we call the Summit. It's a coffee shop with really great food, great coffee, great drinks, open till 2 in the morning, lots of Wi-Fi and power.
It's not operated by IO Ventures.
No, not by IO Ventures. We actually leased this out to a local restaurateur who's someone we really respected and really gets the food service business and hospitality industry. I'm practically vegan myself, so I go for the salads, and there's actually a really good curry dish that I enjoy. Almost 80% of the building is reserved for startups and members of our program. Members are either people who are paying a monthly membership fee that's still fairly reasonable for co-working spaces, or they're companies that we've invested in as part of the IO Ventures Accelerator program. I guess technically we have a locker room and a shower that people can use, so they could spend really long hours here, and boardrooms and conference rooms, so if you want to do private meetings with your team, with investors, with business partners, it's a really great place when you're still too young to really sign a long-term lease with a building downtown or in the area.
There are a total of 6 startup teams who work on the top level. They have 4 months to get their product ready for demo day. After that, they have a couple more months before they have to fly the nest. The idea is to bring in a group of startups every 6 months.
You get a chance to work with some really smart guys. Apart from the mentors and the partners themselves, you've got the other teams that are really good as well. So it creates this really nice environment. If you guys have checked out the place, and it's an awesome place to work at. And what it really brings to you is that this idea that there are other people that have kind of gone through this already. So they give you key sort of pieces of advice at the right moments in your sort of company lifeline or whatever, and helps you figure stuff out.
Drink a lot of coffee, write a lot of code, talk to a lot of mentors and advisors and team members, relax in the living room, have friends wander by.
It's always a really intense and positive environment to be in.
So me and the 3 partners, we also sit down with the companies almost every single day and bounce ideas with them, and they can reach us at all times. I mean, they're hitting us on IM at 2 a.m. sometimes, and we're really just making sure that we are open for them to kind of go out there and ask any questions they need and make sure that they don't make the mistakes that we did earlier. So one of our teams, Sky, they actually were going down a path that was a little bit different than actually going to announce today. And it was about 2 days ago or 3 days ago where they kind of finally showed us their new presentation of their new direction, and it just made sense. And everybody in the room was kind of grinning, and we're throwing ideas out. All the partners we should do that, we should do that, and everybody was just super pumped. So and this is really late at night too. So it just stuff like that happens occasionally, right? You don't know when it's going to happen, but it happens. And also we've had some of the other companies say, hey, I had a meeting down with John from YouTube, and they're like, he changed the direction of the company just a little bit, but it can make all the difference in the world. And it's these little things that really make a big difference.
I'd say we plan never to leave. We love this space, but I think they'll try and kick us out eventually. We might have to move downstairs to the other desk space. Lose the lair feeling.